finally raining, which means that fog is now a real fog as opposed to a smoke fog. So I do feel better this time around. And it looks like pretty much summer is over now because now there's a... Let's see if I can't show that. Yeah, look at those leaves. Those dead leaves. It's time for fall. Anyway, so this is Irreversible Damage, Chapter 2. And this one's called The Influencers. Just imagine a rainbow. The Influencers. So, again, I'm going to try to make this short. I can tell that the moment that I started reading this chapter, I knew this was like the... Even though there's more chapters ahead, of course, 11 more chapters left, I'm like, I think this is part of the meat of it as to why people think that it's transphobic. Because mostly, apparently, I mean, from the criticisms I've seen from the people who are actually mentioned in this chapter, Abigail says she uses they, them pronouns. But it's just like, is that really the only thing you could criticize? But anyway, back to the transphobic thing. Like, I want to like really make it clear this chapter, when I read it, and I could be biased, I suppose, but from what I can tell, Abigail like compliments them so much. And one of the things that she says at the end of the chapter, and I quote, is, "Before I watched the videos, interviewed some of their makers of the influencers, I didn't expect to like trans influencers. I didn't dislike them. If these influencers, I can't speak, if these influencers are relentless evangelists for a dangerous cause, they also need all the love and care they can get." And clearly she's extending an olive branch their way. So this chapter, she's outlining like some of the common things. Seven, there we go. 7 of the common things that influencers will say to the the young audience members who are watching. So I'm just going to jump right into some of these most common sayings. If you think you might be trans, you are. And I got most of these sayings I really strongly dislike. Some of them are just like, I kind of dislike them, but it's like, whatever. I don't know how much it means actually anything, but this one, I really don't like it because, I mean, like, for one, it's an assumption. These statements suggest that the viewer, especially the teenager, shouldn't think about what they're going through. They just want to go off of nebulous, undefined, mercutial, Neptunian feelings, and they should just throw caution to the wind and just go for it. Which I don't like, because, like, I've grown up with my mom telling me, like, if we were going shopping or something, and I found an item that was, like, non-perishable, like a toy or an article of clothing, and I would be hemming and hawing, and she'd be like, she'd tell me, like, if you don't have like a strong yes to this, and if you're like really like hesitating on it, then no, you don't want to do it. And I feel like that should be common sense. So like when somebody says, if you think you might be trans, you are, that's saying go by your impulses and just do it. And so many therapists will tell you, don't go by your impulses because you will most likely make a stupid decision. So it invites you to not think. It invites you to just have this other person think for you. Otherwise, why would you be looking up, like, how can I tell if I'm trans? When I see the comments of, like, a thing like this, trying to answer this question, I'll always see somebody being very, very extremely confused. Like, I want to be trans, but something is stopping me, whatever that is. Or like, I don't really understand what's going on, but gee willikers, this seems really magical. Not a direct quote, but that's basically the kind of energy that they give out when they're like, what? What is this? And then another one I'll see is, boy, that guy is hot. Oh my god, and they're trans? Oh, I must be. It's like, how is that a basis for uh, of your idea? What? I don't know, to have a crush on somebody and then being like, oh, you know what? I do like Justin Bieber. I should be just like him. I'm gonna magically make myself into a man instead. Like, what? I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like what I said about the impulse stuff, like the impulsivity of this. I mean, the problem with that, obviously, is just it's a one-dimensional thinking. There's like what I've noticed from the videos I've watched on the footnotes from the book, they'll never say anything against it. They'll only be saying stuff for it. So the audience has only a one-track mind into it. I mean, and then and a teenager is gonna be pretty much, they're not gonna be thinking of multiple dimensions. They're only gonna be thinking in the one that you're giving them. And I mean, not just teenagers, but adults do it too. But it's more the case with teenagers. They'll be like, okay, so you're giving me this one thing, therefore that is my only option. And so saying, if you think you're trans, you are, boom, okay, that's it. That's the only thing. And I don't like that because it doesn't inspire, critical thinking and making an informed decision on something. It's just saying you should do it, and then they're like, okay, I guess I'll do it. And then along with this quote is, the very general definition of what gender dysphoria is. And like of all the videos I've seen, trans people, like even even the trans influencers that I really like, I guess I wouldn't call them influencers, they're just general, I don't know, trans people who are just talking about it. Like, they don't tend to define it in a very strict way. All they'll say is that you feel uncomfortable with your body. And then the other people will say, you feel different from other people. You don't fit in with other people. You don't feel feminine or masculine enough. You don't feel comfortable in your body. Like I said, it's like, that's that's so extremely vague. Uh, how are you supposed to think with those terms? Because you could also look at generalized anxiety disorder, or even just like OCD or depression or any kind of mood disorder, and then you're like, huh, those kind of match me too. It's kind of like when you say like, oh, I have a headache right now, and then you go on Google or whatever and you search up like, huh, what kind of headache is this? And then you'll wind up with like, you have a brain tumor, you got cancer, like you got all these things, like, and then you're like, oh, maybe I have cancer now. Oh my god, because of this headache. It's kind of an unusual headache. It's just like, whoa, pump the brakes, pal. I guess, when it comes to anxiety and depression, like sometimes you don't even, well, often people don't realize that they have it, and uh, teenagers, I think, especially won't unless they have like a therapist telling them what's going on. But like, I mean, for me, I knew I was depressed, but I didn't know how deep the depression was, and I didn't know every aspect of it that came out of it. Like, it's not just like I didn't know that not having the motivation to shower was a symptom. I had no idea that not just being like having a general withdrawal from other people and being like kind of irritable all the time was also another symptom of depression. And then feeling alienated from other people, it kind of goes along with like social anxiety and stuff. I didn't realize that was a thing. And I feel like if I had known that, I could have been like, oh, these feelings that I'm thinking right now of not being able to fit in with other people and just feeling generally weird, uh, it's I can chalk it up to this mood disorder that I have instead of gender dysphoria. And that would have saved me so much strife. One of the kind of, in my opinion, a desperate catch for better defining what being trans feels like, an influencer will say, "Oh, well, it's kind of like it's like being homosexual. It's just innate, and you just kind of know it." But I feel like that's not you can't really do that because when it comes to your sexuality, your body is reacting very quickly to the stimulus um, of like I don't know. Let's just say it's a gay man and he's looking at something very I don't know, very a handsome man or something who's like naked or half naked, and his body's gonna be like doing, but he can say, "Oh, no, I'm not gay." When it comes to being trans, there's nothing to measure. There's nothing to really scan for, I guess. You can't really put the scientific method on trans people as far as we can tell right now. I feel like I keep saying you can't compare transgenderism to homosexuality. You just can't do it. It's not the same thing at all. The next one is trying out trans. Binders are the best way to start. So while I was writing my script on this exact part, I started feeling faint because what Abigail mentions in the book, based on a study that she was looking at, um, when you wear a binder, which is, for those of you who don't know, a compression shirt, and they compress down your breast tissue. And in the study that she was looking at, it reduces lung function kind of significantly. Not like if you put it on for the first time, you're not gonna feel uh, trapped, like totally reduced. You're not gonna feel that right away. But with long-term use, like like more than 8 hours a day, sometimes people sleep with it. I've only done that like maybe like once or twice while I was wearing one, but it definitely reduces everything down. So this made me feel faint because one of the other things that she mentioned was lung collapse, which is called a pneumothorax. You know what? Look it up yourself. I'm not going to describe it. But basically, you know, I couldn't breathe that well anymore, and it was very traumatizing. So I'm gonna put up a picture of the day that I went into the hospital, and like this was the day after the day of the surgery. So it was on October 11th when I first went into the emergency room. This was 2012. So uh, this was right before I got on testosterone. I think. I don't really know. I guess it's kind of all a blur to me. But this happened a long time ago, man. We're talking 6 years. I don't really know. Anyway, so my right lung had collapsed and I was rushed to the emergency room. I think I had been wearing an ACE bandage. And maybe I just started wearing a binder. I'm not entirely sure. I don't have receipts. Why would I keep receipts as a teenager? I might have been wearing a binder. I'm not entirely sure. But I was definitely wearing it for at least a year. And no, absolutely nobody told me the risks of it. I think somebody said like there might be some issues with an ACE bandage, but if I did read that as a teenager, I would have been like, Psh, I can do it. I am invincible. I'm a teenager. I'm invincible. Yeah. So if it just was from the ACE bandage, then like yeah, okay, maybe it's just the ACE bandage. And then uh, the website that I got my binder from, it was advertised to me as if a binder was way safer than an ACE bandage. So I was like, oh, okay, they must have my health in mind, right? But, no, they didn't. because on August 13th, 2014, my lung collapsed again. And boy, was that well, the first time it happened, it was like, okay, I can brush this off, whatever. But the second time that it happened, I don't like lightly throwing around the word PTSD or the acronym PTSD and applying it to myself, because a lot of people say that they claim that they have it. And no, I actually do have PTSD from it, because it was traumatic. It warrants it. I mean, it's surgery. Anyway, so my point is, binders are not safe. Do not buy a binder. They are so dangerous. You're not supposed to be doing this to your chest. And, and there's other things to it too. Like, not only is there a shortness of breath, especially if you're a smoker as well, but you also get fractured or bruised ribs, uh, punctured lungs, I guess, back pain. I never felt back pain, I don't think. And then deformation of the breast tissue. I looked into the references, some of the footnotes that Abigail put down for this one, and one of the quotes: "Mentally, I just feel so much better when I bind. Even when my binders were cutting into my sides so bad they left deep red marks for hours, uh, or even making my chest sore. Sometimes it was completely worth the trade-off." And yeah, this was in the Vice article, and it reminds me of those smokers who, the ones who know that it's really bad, and they know that it'll kill them eventually, but the stress relief in the moment is just so worth it. And short-term gain for, I don't know what this saying really is, but I'm going to say short-term gain for long-term loss just is not worth it. And from my experience, it definitely is not worth it. Just to make you feel psychologically good, but you're destroying your body, I don't think so. You can help yourself before that happens. Why don't you do that? Why don't you take care of your body? It's such a novel thing, right? And then at the end of that article, it says, binding is a temporary fix that should demonstrate to people how incredibly important it is for trans and non-binary people to have access to medical treatment they need. And to me, this just screams, see, see how much I'm hurting myself? You should do as I say, or I'll be a medical emergency, which is manipulative. You're guilting people to do as you command. How is making someone feel uneasy about you a good way to approach what you want? Like, when you guilt somebody, you don't exactly feel good when you do it, unless you have a personality disorder or something. But it doesn't make me feel good. I don't think it makes many people feel good. The next one is testosterone is amazing. It may just solve all your problems. And I have an issue with this one too. So Abigail points out this person's Instagram, and she says, you don't need to be 100% certain you're trans to try hormones. You can try hormones for 3 months. After 3 months, there starts to be permanent effects. But until then, you can just try hormones and see how you feel. Hormones aren't as scary as everyone makes them out to be. Actually, they are kind of scary as everybody makes them out to be. And you definitely cannot speak for everybody, because number one, you're just one person, and number two, you're an MTF, so you don't know the permanent effects of FTMs. And I know that one of the immediate changes that you get when you're on hormones as a woman is that your clitoris enlarges. I think that's one of the things that happen immediately. That's permanent. After I detransitioned, I hated it. I hated my TMI, but I hated it when I got big, and it's still kind of big. I mean, sometimes I do still get insecure about it, because it just an enlarged clitoris does look like a micropenis. It does. Like, alongside this, the quote ignores the aspect that therapists and gender clinics need to evaluate if you have gender dysphoria or not. You'd have to lie in order to get the hormones to begin with, and then if you didn't like it, you would get off of them, which I feel like if the doctor knew any better, they would be like, huh, I thought you guys were trans. This was like your treatment to feel better. But it didn't make you feel better? Huh, a little weird. Maybe some gears might start turning, I don't know. I mean, I understand that feeling of accomplishment, like you finally got it, and I was just on cloud nine when I first got my hormones. But, you know, like after a while it wears off, and then the mundanity of life settles back in. Besides just being mundane, it's like once the euphoria wears off, and it might take a while to wear off, it might take maybe even a year, but what ends up happening is that, like, your euphoria is like this, and then it starts shrinking. And then your demons start coming back and haunting you again. And testosterone doesn't solve those problems that you had before. It doesn't make you love yourself more. It doesn't make other people love you more. It doesn't make you more socially ambitious or extroverted. It doesn't erase the memory of people treating you like shit because they hate women or they hate men. It doesn't erase the memories of that older man touching you when you were a little kid. It doesn't solve anything. You can't run away from these memories. To me, when you go on your cross-sex hormones, it's just like being an alcoholic. You think that you're covering it up with alcohol, and you think that you're getting away from it, and it's leaving you alone now, but it's not. It, like alcohol and these drugs will give you a momentary like, yes, I'm away from it now, but no, just no. It's I had a big reality check when I realized that transitioning was not working out for me, because all those repressed memories that I had, like, yeah, testosterone didn't do anything for me. So the next one is, if your parents loved you, they would support your trans identity. And this one's a bit tricky to explain, but you know, I've studied, not like super extensively, but I have studied the behavior of narcissism, and a narcissist like spouse or a parent will tell you, if you really loved me, you would be doing this. And so, like, like you can take that other quote that I just said. If your parents love you, you could say like, from the perspective of the kid who's saying like, if you really loved me, then you would support my trans identity. When you tell a teen this, it indoctrinates them to believe, to like demonize their parents if their parents show an ounce of like, what, like, what is this? What are you talking about? You never felt. You've never come across to me as a guy before. This is kind of weird. This quote also sets up a mild threat. It sounds like an ultimatum. It suggests, I'm going to withdraw my love from you, the parents, if you don't fully accept me, or even worse, and this is very real, I'm going to leave you if you don't fully accept me. Which, like, I can imagine a parent going like, oh my god, I don't want you to do that. I'm sure many of these parents have seen their teens legitimately run away from them. And even in the book, it'll say, I can't remember which one it was, but like at least two of them had run away from home, and they joined their glitter family. I don't know. The thing is, like, love comes in many different shades. Somebody loves you, therefore, this is a silly example, but they're going to tell you that there's food stuck in your teeth, or your hair looks a little stupid right now. They're gonna tell you, like, oh, your breath smells bad. You know, something like that. They're gonna do it because they care about you. And they don't want you to be embarrassed by somebody else saying, oh my god, you fucking stink. Whoa. Or like haha, you have something stuck in your teeth. You bozo. You know, like, and then you're completely red faced, so embarrassed. And you would have rather had your friend say, hey man, you have this. And that comes from a place of caring about you. They want you to succeed. And that's, sometimes love just kind of comes with a little bit of doubt. Not in every case, but especially when it comes to trans stuff, or even like when somebody says, like, I don't think that guy you're crushing on right now, I don't think he would be good for you because I heard all this crazy stuff about him or her. And then the person's like, nah. Oh, you just don't like me anymore, huh? You just want them all for yourself, huh? Like, I know it sounds hard when somebody tells you something that doesn't immediately fit into what you want to believe, but sometimes, love comes with truth, and the truth is hard to hear. I get that, and I went through it too. My mom expressed so much doubt, and I was so angry at her for it. Yeah, this quote also suggests parents are imminently replaceable by friends and lovers. And I know that many trans teens will merge in with a group of other trans teens, and they will further feed off of each other's ideologies and stuff, making it extremely hard to let in new ideas. The infamous echo chamber is flung around these days. Um, this this quote frightens me because teens are extremely vulnerable, and if they run off out from under the safe wings of their parents, they're setting themselves up for failure. They're no longer having anybody teach them how to be an adult. They have nobody teaching them how to uh, fend off predators. They are very defenseless. But, of course, when it comes to real abusive families, like, yeah, it makes sense to go into some kind of shelter away from that, like, of course. But when it comes to a parent saying, like, hey, I don't really think that you are a dude, that I just, you've never shown any sign at all that you were one. I don't get it. That's not abuse. Like, I think, like, I think we've overextended what abuse is defined as. And, with this, like, this isolation of, like, running away from your family, like, it reminds me again of narcissists being like, telling their spouse or whoever lies about that person's friends and family, that they're not trustworthy, they actually hate you, they don't like you, they don't respect you, so you are safer with me. And and with the narcissist, they'll completely isolate you. And there's a lot of other things that go into it, but there's just some things that just remind me of narcissistic abuse, and that's what really, really frightens me about this ideology. Moving on to the next one is, if you're not supported in your trans identity, you'll probably kill yourself, which we kind of covered that a little bit, but in the last video. But this one, I'm just saying it right now, it's extremely guilt trippy, especially when it's told toward parents. Uh, Basically, it's saying that your child is going to guaranteed kill herself if she does not get these drugs. It suggests that there's absolutely no alternative to transition, and this is the only way. And, websites like WebMD, Wikipedia, um, major medical websites, they'll all say transition, you know, hormones, surgeries, that's the only treatment. They don't show any alternatives at all. So it gives you, again, that one track mind. This is the only way that I can do it. That puts a lot of pressure on teens, and even more pressure on confused parents who just want their kid to be happy, just, this is kind of, it sounds a little gruesome at first, but it reminds me of a murderer breaking into your house and threatening to kill your child right in front of you if you don't give them her hormones. But the murderer turns out to be your own kid. Like, it's so threatening. It's really scary. And this quote also suggests that parents don't know anything about what their child is going through. Therefore, they shouldn't question it and should just give her what she wants in an act of supporting her. It just shows, be complacent, don't ask questions, just do it. Again, it just sounds manipulative. Like, don't question it. Just give her the surgeries, the irreversible surgeries that she believes she needs. And when it comes to a homosexual child and you don't really understand it because you're not homosexual yourself, well, not all parents. You would say something like, I don't really understand it, but you know what? I accept you and support you and whatever. Like, that's fine because there's nothing to be done. There's nothing to be had when it comes to your child who's a homosexual. Like, it's like, yeah, whatever. But when it's a trans kid, it's like, if there's something to be had here, you can do something about it. Okay, so the next one is deceiving parents and doctors is justified if it helps transition. And this one is like, it comes off as really desperate sounding. It's a by all means necessary approach, which comes from a very survivalist mindset. Your life is on the line, therefore you are allowed to do anything. So put out a statistic, no matter how real it is, for lack of a better word. Threaten to run away from your home to go to your glitter family. Make up stories about your non-existent gender dysphoria that you supposedly had as a kid, just to get what you believe will make you not kill yourself. And then there was like this quote in there that she said that Abigail pointed out was, it's not the doctor's business. And I have issues with that because it 100% is the doctor's business. It's literally their business. Like, you're coming up to them lying to their face about your feelings and saying, I need this. And what you're proposing is, I want to be your patient for the rest of my life, and I want to rely on you for these drugs. On the basis of this lie, especially when the doctor doesn't really know how far, like, what the damage can happen with cross-sex hormones. Like, what if you have vaginal atrophy and your doctor has no idea what the cause is? They don't know what it is. They don't even think that it's vaginal atrophy, so then they just like give you a band-aid and say you're on your way, and then you might just die. Like, you can't lie to a doctor. What? No, you can't do that. That would set everybody up for failure. That would be a lose-lose situation. You can't do an by all means necessary thing. Like, we're talking about medicine and health. You can't lie your way into that. And the last one is, you don't have to identify as the opposite sex to be transgender. And this further broadens the trans umbrella, which is extremely broad. It's not even like a sun umbrella. It's like a dome over a city. That's how broad it is. In this one, I don't know. I'm kind of mixed up about it. I guess I don't really have an opinion on it. Abigail brings up non-binary people, and these folks make it even more impossible to like diagnose somebody with gender dysphoria, and makes the definition even more muddled than it already is. Basically, non-binary is being uncomfortable with both sexes. I mean, there's probably more to it than that, but that's the gist that I get out of it. One of the things that Abigail poses here is, but if what you want from your body is non-binary, something that does not or has not ever existed, how will you know if you've reached it? Doesn't it seem more likely that you'll never arrive there? And then she points out like Michael Jackson's nose, and he kept on getting surgeries to make it the perfect nose, but it's just like, what does perfect look like? What does non-binary look like? I feel like it's really impossible to get away from gender because it's just what we are, you know? In conclusion to this chapter, Abigail can clearly see that these people are all very young and who are in need of a lot of help. She sprinkles this chapter full of compliments because she can see these people, these influencers, as people and not their ideologies, which means that she values their feelings and their well-being. She wants to see them be happy, safe, and succeed just as much as their parents do. But her criticizing the ideology, which I know very well in the influencer's mind, this means invalidation and violence, meaning she doesn't truly care about me because she doesn't see me as male. And that feels kind of, it's sad to me. It's sad because, like you want to be known as who you are and what your personality is. You want to be known as the things that you create, right? You want to be seen. But then you just constantly shoot yourself in the foot and say, pay attention to my gender. Pay attention to it. At gunpoint. Pay attention to it. Like, you're just reducing yourself down to your genitals. It's like, why? There is so much more to you than your genitals and your gender expression. Like, you have your talents, your skills, your creativity, your imagination, and you're just going like, yeah, but you're not calling me by this. Like, it's like you're so much more valuable than that. I don't see how you're not picking that up. Anyway, that's it. I'm done. It's getting dark out. Goodbye.